Attention real estate investors. Are you looking to diversify your investments in a growing industry and collect frequent income? You should check out Image Studios Salon Suites. We offer an investment opportunity where real estate comes together with beauty and wellness. We rent turnkey studios to beauty professionals and are on track to have over 100 locations open this year across the country. Image Studios is a unique investment opportunity, and we're building an incredible team of high-caliber entrepreneurs from coast to coast. We're the leader in the industry and poised for tremendous growth. Interested in owning your own Image Studios franchise? Contact us today. Visit imagestudiosfranchise.com to find out more. That's imagestudiosfranchise.com.
Gives you a closer look at the events that happened around Maine this week.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Cindy Campbell. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so I chatted this week with Casey Falkingham of Partners for Peace, where they've changed the name to make it more of a call to action. By the way, listen for her pup Opal, who just had to say hello. So for folks who don't know, Casey, what is Partners for Peace?
Partners for Peace is the Domestic Violence Resource Center located in Penobscot and Piscataquis counties. We help anyone affected by domestic violence and abuse.
And you help in a number of ways, right? I mean, looking at your website, it goes from a hotline to legal services to helping victims find shelter.
True. We have a whole lot of support services available to people affected by domestic violence and abuse, including our 24-hour helpline, an emergency shelter, help with protection orders and other legal support, help navigating the child protective system. We also have support groups and really just one-on-one advocacy and safety planning for anyone who might need it.
You mentioned children, and I think they're often the overlooked part of domestic violence is that they can not only be caught up in a bad situation, but it can become victims as well.
When someone is abusive to their partner, it's very common for them to also be abusive to the children and even the pets in the home. So when we help people who are affected by abuse, we are looking at the issue as holistically as possible and helping everyone in the home and everyone who's affected.
I think we also tend to think of domestic violence as man to woman, but it can go the other way, and it's also showing up in the LGBTQ community as well.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hi, puppy.
Hi. Anyone can be affected by domestic violence and abuse. It really is not something that discriminates. Unfortunately, we see lots of folks experiencing domestic violence and abuse, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, particularly people who identify as bisexual and transgender experience very high rates of intimate partner violence.
Maybe it's just because I work in news and so I tend to report on it a lot, but this is a big problem in Maine, isn't it?
Domestic violence certainly is a big problem in Maine. It's a big problem everywhere, and we're not immune to that by any means. In the state of Maine, we tend to be on the lower end of the spectrum for overall crime. When it comes to domestic violence, we still have a lot of domestic violence crimes happening and domestic violence homicides happening in the state, where we see 40 to 50% of the homicides in Maine each year being domestic violence related.
Wow, that is so scary. Are there warning signs when someone gets into a relationship that they can watch for that a partner is potentially abusive?
Domestic violence and abuse is defined as a pattern of coercion and a pattern of power and control in a relationship or in a family that is purposeful and chosen and based on a belief system of entitlement. Or in other words, the person who's being abusive really feels like they have the right to do that. They feel justified in that. So what people can look out for or try to look out for, it's really hard to look out for quote-unquote warning signs or red flags, because people who are abusive are not abusive on the first date. Or they may be, but they may be hiding it quite well. Otherwise, their tactics wouldn't be very good. But things to look out for would be power and control, manipulation, and really just when someone believes that they have the right to tell their partner what they can and can't do, where they can and can't go, what they can and can't wear, who they can and can't hang out with. Those are all things that oftentimes people who are abusive believe they have the right to do when they don't.
Right. Now, you often hear people say if they observe someone they think is in an abusive situation, why don't they just leave? It really isn't that simple, is it?
The most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence is when they are in the process of leaving the abusive partner. That period of time is when we see the majority of domestic violence homicides taking place. And so when we as a community are putting pressure on victims and survivors to, quote unquote, just leave, we could, in fact, really be putting this person in more danger by putting that pressure on. It's really important that the person who is experiencing domestic violence be in the driver's seat when it comes to making decisions about when and how to leave safely. And that's where we come in, because we create safety plans with victims and survivors of domestic violence, and we help people create that plan no matter what it is that they're planning on doing. Maybe they have a vacation coming up with their abuser and they want to find a way, make a plan to make sure that they are safe during that time. People don't have to be ready to leave or in the process of leaving in order to call us, and that's something that we want to be very clear about. People can call us at any point in their journey.
And that's such an important factor, that you can feel so isolated in that situation, like there is no hope, there is no one who can help you, but there are people who can help. They just have to reach out.
We are available 24/7, and we have highly trained advocates ready to listen and problem solve and plan and offer resources. That helpline is an absolute lifeline that is not only available to people who are being directly affected, but also for friends, family members, service providers, anyone who is concerned for someone who's experiencing abuse, and maybe you're just not exactly sure how to support them, how to help. That's what we're here for 24/7.
Okay. And what is that hotline number?
Our helpline number is 1-800-863-9909. It is free. It is confidential. It is 24/7. And it is non-judgmental, unconditional support.
Okay. So I know October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but at Partners for Peace, it's Domestic Violence Action Month. Why the difference? Why the name change?
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month typically, but at Partners for Peace and across the state, our main coalition has declared it Domestic Violence Action Month because we believe that we are ready to move beyond awareness. It's one thing to be aware of an issue. It's another thing to take action to help prevent it or help support the people who are being affected by it. So this month we are offering lots of opportunities for our community to get involved, to come to events, to show up and show your support in that way, to sign up to volunteer, to donate and help invest your dollars in creating support for survivors in our community. There's so many ways to get involved. If anyone is interested in taking action, we will help them find a way to do that.
Okay, and how can they get a hold of you to learn more? Is that on the website?
Our website is a great tool with all of these different opportunities. We have an awesome volunteer sign-up form on our website. We have a donation page with all the different ways for people to donate, because there's lots of different ways and lots of different funds to donate to, or it's sometimes fun to get a group of people together to collect items from our wish list and donate them directly to the people who need those items like toiletries and basic needs. But yeah, our website is partnersforpeaceme.org.
Okay, and one more time, let's give that helpline number.
1-800-863-9909.
Awesome. Casey, that's what I had. Did we miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to add?
We have a big event coming up at the end of the month called Erin's Run. Erin Woolley was a native of Bangor, and she was an advocate at what was Spruce Run at the time. Now we're Partners for Peace. We changed our name. She was a Spruce Run advocate through and through, and she unfortunately passed away due to cancer. And so her dreams of becoming an attorney for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors were cut short. But she is someone who, would be at these tables with us, would be showing up with us. So in her honor, we have Erin's Run 5K on October 30th that we would love to see everyone at the Bangor waterfront at 9 a.m.
And how can folks get signed up for that?
On our website, there's also an Erin's Run Facebook page and website.
Find more information at partnersforpeaceme.org. If you're experiencing domestic violence, reach out. Call the helpline anytime, day or night, at 800-863-9909. Next, later this week is World Stroke Awareness Day. So here's an interview I did with Northern Light Health's Dr. Andrew Ehrhard about the effects of a stroke and what warning signs to watch for. What is a stroke?
A stroke is when an artery that supplies oxygen and nutrients to the brain, for some reason, doesn't supply the necessary amount of blood to certain parts of the brain. This can result in symptoms and even brain damage and tissue death.
And what causes it? Is it always caused by a spike in blood pressure, or what causes it?
It's caused by two main events. One is where a blockage actually occurs in the artery. That is roughly 90% of the cases of stroke. And then the other 10% is when the artery actually ruptures and bleeds into the brain.
Okay. And is this something that can be hereditary? If you have a family member that had stroke, are you more in danger of stroke?
Yes, so there are many different reasons to increase your risk of stroke. It can be hypertension, obesity, high cholesterol, smoking, diabetes, atrial fibrillation, genetics. Are just a few. Those are the main ones.
Okay. All right. My mom had a hemorrhagic stroke several years ago. My dad got her to the hospital immediately. She has no lasting effects, which I know is highly unusual. Effects of a stroke really can vary, can't they? They can be mild to pretty severe.
Correct. Stroke symptoms can run across an entire spectrum. They can be quite serious, involving paralysis on one side, inability to speak, even death. Some people have symptoms that are less severe than that, and they can physically walk out of the hospital and still have their normal activities of daily living. And some people can have symptoms that resolve, and those are commonly called TIAs or mini strokes.
So what is a TIA?
A TIA is called transient ischemic attack, which is a set of symptoms that can vary. Speech difficulty, facial droop, arm or leg numbness or weakness, basically all the symptoms that we said with the FAST, F-A-S-T, signs and symptoms. They get better on their own. Okay. Sometimes they only last 15 minutes, sometimes they can last an hour, sometimes they can last up to a day, but they go away without any lasting brain damage.
Wow. Okay, so say I have a TIA and I get better, what are my chances of getting a stroke at that point?
If you do have a TIA or a mini stroke, you should still be evaluated as fast as possible, even calling 911 to come to the emergency department. The reason for this is roughly 15% of all people that have a TIA can have an actual stroke within the next 90 days. So it's important to get seen, evaluated, and receive any testing that you need to ensure that you don't actually develop that stroke in the next 90 days.
Okay. And if you don't have a stroke in the next 90 days, is it still a warning sign that you could be prone to stroke or at risk of stroke?
It depends on if you received your testing or not. If you receive the proper testing and everything checks out, then you should feel more confident that you won't have a stroke in the near future. Okay. However, if you just ignored it and crossed your fingers, then you are at a higher risk of having a stroke even after 90 days.
So what are the warning signs of stroke? I know you have an acronym FAST. What is FAST?
Yeah, FAST is capital F, capital A, capital S, capital T, FAST. And it's facial droop for F. A is arms, so arm weakness or arm numbness. S is speech, so slurred speech. And T is time to call 911. Those are the symptoms that we ask the public to look for the most. There are other symptoms as well. If you have sudden headache, that's the worst headache of your life. If you have lack of coordination or vision or balance or dizziness that comes on suddenly, that can be a different type of stroke that people aren't as familiar with. Confusion is another one. So there are a gamut of different symptoms, but FAST is the big one we want people to think about.
So if someone that you're with, a side of their face starts drooping or their speech becomes slurred or they seem very confused, you call the ambulance immediately, correct?
Correct. We don't recommend that you drive yourself to the hospital. This is for a couple reasons. First is ambulance crew are trained professionals, and so they can help you with any emergency that you have right there in the ambulance. The other reason is they can call ahead to the hospital to let us know you're coming so we can prepare and get ready for a patient that possibly is having a stroke. If you just show up to the front door of the emergency department, we obviously will see you as soon as you get there, but it'll both take us by surprise, and if there was something that happened to you in the car, no one was in the car to help treat you.
Right. The last thing you want to do is be behind the wheel.
Correct.
Yeah. Minutes really count when it comes to a stroke.
Correct. Time counts with a stroke. The sooner you can get to the emergency department, the better to be evaluated. There are certain medications and therapies we can give that are time dependent, and the sooner we give them, the better. So it is not beneficial to you to sit and wait and hope that things get better, because that can affect how beneficial our medications are that we give you.
Right. And my face is drooping. Let's wait an hour and see what happens. Probably not a good idea.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so don't drive yourself. If you call an ambulance, what happens in the back of the ambulance on the way to the hospital?
So the medical personnel in the ambulance do a variety of different things. They check your vital signs. Sometimes people can have a stroke or stroke-like symptoms from high blood pressure. They can help treat that. Sometimes people have stroke or stroke-like symptoms from low blood sugar, and that's diagnosed with just a simple finger stick, and they can start treating that right in the ambulance.
Okay.
Sometimes people can actually have heart problems, like a heart attack or a heart rhythm problem, that are just giving the patient symptoms of a stroke, but it's not really their brain, it's their heart.
Okay.
There's a multitude of different tests that the ambulance could do. In addition, if someone's having a stroke and they're getting worse, the ambulance could even assist breathing if necessary, or even put in the breathing tube and put you on a ventilator if necessary, or in worst case scenario, if you stop breathing and your heart stops, the ambulance would start CPR. So there are many different things that the ambulance can do that you're never going to be able to do in a car.
Right. And a stroke can be fatal, correct?
Correct. So roughly 800,000 Americans per year have a stroke, and of those 800,000, roughly 140,000 Americans die per year of stroke. It's actually the fifth leading cause of death in the United States.
Wow. Wow. So worth it, whether it's in your family or not, I would think, to familiarize yourself with the symptoms. So if you see someone starting in that direction, you know what to look for.
Absolutely. We are happy to see everyone that has stroke-like symptoms, and we're equally happy when they don't actually have a stroke, and we say false alarm or thank you for coming in, or good news, you're not having a stroke. That's great when people come in to be evaluated.
Find more information at stroke.org or cdc.gov/stroke. I'm Cindy Campbell. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and stay healthy.
Join us again next weekend for Main Concerns with your Town Square Media News team.
Attention real estate investors. Are you looking to diversify your investments in a growing industry and collect frequent income? You should check out Image Studios Salon Suites. We offer an investment opportunity where real estate comes together with beauty and wellness. We rent turnkey studios to beauty professionals and are on track to have over 100 locations open this year across the country. Image Studios is a unique investment opportunity, and we're building an incredible team of high-caliber entrepreneurs from coast to coast. We're the leader in the industry and poised for tremendous growth. Interested in owning your own Image Studios franchise? Contact us today. Visit imagestudiosfranchise.com to find out more. That's imagestudiosfranchise.com.